smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditties. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz is back in the house, and today we have a fun guest in the house and a little bit of kindness. That's right, we're going to do the cycle of kindness with Nathaniel Allenby. He's also the founder of Circus Quirk. So we're going to talk about circus, going to talk about books, kindness, cycling, all of that good stuff. So before we get any of that in here, we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, Spotify channel, Facebook, all those good platforms, and get you to subscribe, follow, and share the tea times, because one tea time share does make a difference. And I guarantee Miss Liz has one tea time that you will resonate with, because that's what I do, is I just bring all these different flavors and excitement topics to the table. So we do not serve a beverage. We serve real life tea. And today's tea that I have been given is service, inspiration, and connection. That is the tea we are serving today. So before we get started, disclaimer, and then an intro, and then Daniel's coming in here, and we're spilling some tea and having some fun today. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any tea time show is in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All guest viewers and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of this discussion, you are welcome to contact me directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your decision and your wishes and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Now, let me give you a little bit on who is sitting in the back room. So this afternoon on Tea Time, I am honored to introduce Nathaniel Allenby. Nathaniel is an artist, adventurer, and storyteller who believes in the power of kindness in motion. His journey is one of courage, choosing to step forward, to ask the brave questions, and inspire others to see adventure as a pathway to growth. Nathaniel's work encourages us to discover how small acts of compassion ripple into lasting change. Today, he joins us to share his story, his mission, and his vision for a world led by courage and kindness. Let's welcome Nathaniel Allenby. Let me get Nathaniel. Welcome, Nathaniel.
Hello, Miss Liz. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is a pleasure to have you here. I really enjoyed the connection of getting this tea time set up with you. We had some conversation on the phone and through emails and all that good stuff. So I really enjoyed this one.
I appreciate that. Me too.
So Nathaniel, I'm going to take you down a little rabbit hole, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to play the circus.
Okay.
Who is Nathaniel as a little guy, and who is Nathaniel now?
As a little guy, I was a very curious kid. The number one word you probably would have heard out of my mouth is why. I wanted to know how the world worked. And I wasn't an artist. I wasn't very creative as a kid. I grew up in the Boy Scouts and playing soccer, living on a family farm where we raised chickens and pigs and cows. We had an orchard and a pasture and a garden. And so we grew about half of our own food. And so we were very rural in Oregon between Portland and Salem in the Willamette Valley. And I was a bit of a recluse. I spent a lot of time alone. I didn't get along well socially. I often felt very ostracized. I received a fair amount of trauma from my older brother, who was a unbelievable master psychological tormentor and manipulator without any professional training. And so that certainly shaped a lot of how I thought about myself. I very much embraced a victim mentality early on. And that was something that really set up the stage of my life to grow through and learn from. And so many of my experiences have been, call it, rooted in that. Because very early on, I became a perfectionist. I thought that if there was nothing that someone else could criticize me for or give me guilt and shame around, then I would stop receiving this horrible treatment. And so I strove to be a straight A student, to master any video game I ever played, to learn as much as I could and read every single book that I could get my hands on. And that was how I spent a lot of my time. And I also wanted to help my parents so that there was absolutely nothing that could be upset at me for. So I tried to become this, ideal or perfect kid. And pretty early on in my college career, I realized how that attempt at perfection wasn't serving me, that I couldn't make all the people happy all the time.
Right? It is draining after a while too.
Truly, it is beyond exhausting. And there's an aspect of inauthenticity to it. Because as a perfectionist, we're often trying to constantly people please, put on a happy face or a facade or illusion of wholeness or well being within, when often that is sometimes the farthest thing from the truth.
So, Nathaniel, what got you into the circus? Because you're the founder of Circus Quirk. How did that come about?
Yeah, I founded Cirque Quirk, which is now San Diego's highest rated entertainment company, after landing in San Diego at the invitation of my brother. I was trying to make amends with him, and we were really trying to bridge the gap as adults. But even before that, I was going to Willamette University in Salem, Oregon for politics. And this was post 9/11, Bush W era, and I had gotten very depressed. I had garnered a rather cynical perspective that politics was vile, seditious, and corrupt. And it was very difficult for me to want to continue going into. And so I ended up dropping out, becoming a professional gamer, losing some of my eyesight, gaining lots of weight. And my best friend observed my health. And he cared about me so much that he took me out on a trip, actually gave me a dose of magic mushrooms with my consent, and by the end of this journey had convinced me to go on a journey where he would buy me a one-way ticket to Europe and a bicycle when we got there, as long as I would ride around with him wherever he
Oh,
wanted to go. And we left 8 months later. When we got there, we bought the bikes and a cart, and then he said, "Okay, I'm broke. I have no more money. You get to learn how to juggle so that we can busk or street perform around Europe as we travel so that we can make some money as we go. And I was terrible to begin with. I was such a slow learner. It took me about an hour of practice every day for a single month, 30 hours. Whereas my best students have learned in 5 minutes. And so it was a really challenging start. And from there, I continued to grow and learn and improve, travel, and all kinds of things changed in my life since then. That led
But
to landing in San Diego 6 years later, where I went to work for another company, learned how to stilt walk, puppeteer, character act, and then I founded my own company, partially due to lack of agreement with management. And since then, over the last 13 years, it's grown and become really well thought of, and it has a really high quality reputation. And we strive for outstanding customer service and really high quality showmanship and bringing beautiful theatrical productions to all kinds of private and corporate events.
well, that Daniel, that's where the adventure comes in, right? Politics, riding a bike, juggling, creating the circus, and it shows the diversity, right, of change and opening up the mind and trying new things. Like juggling. Like juggling is not easy. How long did it take you to learn how to juggle?
So after those first 30 hours, it took me until about 150 hours until I could start doing some better tricks, be a little bit more consistent, not drop all the time. I am now sitting at somewhere around 9,500 hours. I'm
Hmm.
almost at that 10,000 hour mark. Over the last 19 years, I've actually performed in 18 different countries, in 5 continents, 30 United States. I've gotten to go to Zimbabwe with a company called Clowns Without Borders. I competed in a reality TV show called Fight to Survive in Fiji. And I feel really blessed. I've gotten to have so many wonderful experiences through pursuing my passion of bringing joy, un, unbelievable wonder, amazement, inspiration to audiences worldwide. And I'm continuing that as I go into motivational speaking, promoting kindness through my book as well. And I dream of creating an app, kind of like an Instagram or a TikTok, but instead of like, look at me, ego driven, more of like, let me do something really kind and generous for
I
someone
like that.
else.
I like
And look
that.
at them. Look at the response that they have, the reaction that they have. Notice how good it can feel when we're doing an act of service for another human being. And the idea is for this to blow up and go viral and get global and change the world into a much more profoundly positive place.
Absolutely. And Daniel, I always say it, right? The ego's got to go. We got to start opening up that heart and getting some kindness out there. I want to do pop up your book so you can describe what the cover looks like for the audio listeners out there. And let's talk about the book a little bit. And then we're going to get into some of these questions that came in for you. But, adventure, just do it. Just try it. I've been saying that for the last 6 years to everybody who has listened to Tea Time. Just try and you will make a difference and open your heart up to others. So let's get the book up there and let's talk about the book and how you got the cover and the name and all of that good stuff and what they can find in this book and where they can get this book.
Certainly. So, The Cycle of Kindness is available where all good books are sold. You can find it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. We're working on an audiobook, but it is available on ebook as well, so those regular platforms. And I was at an event where I had been talking to a friend about what was the working title at the time, which was The Kindness of Strangers. However, there were already 3 books by that title. So I needed something different, and they recommended The Cycle of Kindness, and I loved it. It stuck. And so there is a golden cog in the background of the cover, with the earth in the middle of it, as well as a golden recycling symbol, which is to say that there is a real value in passing along kindness. There's these terms of pay it forward or do a good turn daily that I definitely work towards promoting through the content of the book. And also at the very top, there are some ripples because there is a very real and genuine ripple effect to all of our actions that we often don't see. When we have an impact on someone else, they then go and have an impact on the people that they interact with, sometimes for the rest of their lives, especially when we have a really profound impact and we truly change someone. And so I have this belief and vision that the actions that we do in this life truly matters, and that we get to be blessed with this life to have the opportunity to make a positive impact on the world through those around us. And
And
very center of the world, you can see Europe because that's where I was within this book. I spent 10 months there, pedaling around 7,500 miles. I do have a second book already written as a part of the original manuscript that I wrote, where I travel across the United States. But when it came to the editing process, I had way too much material and so needed to make this into a book series, which I hope
oh, I like
to
it.
release the next one within the next 5 years or so.
And you want to mention that little golden bike on the top of the cycle, the word the
Yeah.
cycle?
Yeah, there's also a little golden bike with little rotating recycle like wheels because I could not have traveled without what I term the cycle of kindness, the generosity of others, the gifts that I received, people who gave me a place to stay or fed me or gave me water when I was thirsty. And there were times when people gave us money, even when we weren't asking for it. And so it really was this cycle where the more that we gave as we volunteered our time, did work trade for intentional communities, permaculture farms, nonprofit organizations, the more that we received in return.
Well, we have a question that came in as you were talking about on the road, right? So I'm going to get that question out to you. It says, on the road,
Yay.
what was the hardest day and what kindness kept you moving?
What was the hardest thing or state?
The hardest day.
Oh, the hardest day. So I actually began the book with the hardest day because it is so gripping. It was the day after Christmas, December 26th, 2006. I started out in the small town of Toulouse on the foothills of the Pyrenees Mountains in southern France, and I cycled through the coldest weather I have ever experienced in my life. It was so well below freezing that the river next to me, as I was cycling along, was actively freezing over. I had every piece of clothing essentially that I owned on, and I didn't have gloves that covered my fingers. So every 10 minutes, my fingers were going numb. So I was alternating hands, holding one on the bike and having the other hand inside my armpit to thaw and get its circulation back. And I didn't stop for around 6 hours. And it was scary because it was one of those moments where I realized what kind of perilous danger that I actually put myself in. And I was scared for my life. Tears and snot would just freeze to my face, and the sweat dripping down from underneath my hat would also just harden and cake, and I would eat while I was traveling. I actually went to the bathroom while I was cycling. I would stop for nothing. And I felt so relieved when I finally got to a town where it had warmed up a little bit. It wasn't so terrible. And there were some people out in a little pavilion where there were several different restaurants, and they were having their coffee and, little treats and pastries and whatnot. And I met another homeless man there who even shared a gift with me. And it was such a small but profoundly meaningful act of kindness that it helped me to feel safe and reassured the belief that I was going to make it and I was going to be okay. And I ended up continuing cycling, not that there was a lot of daylight left, but ended up getting to another village. I did not make it to the Mediterranean, and I was so scared at how quickly the temperature was dropping that it was going to again be well below freezing. And so I
Wow.
began to knock on doors. And it seemed like this was a ghost town or maybe a vacation village where people have their second homes. Nobody was at any of the buildings that I knocked on. So I ended up going down a dead end road, looked into a building that was somewhere between a giant well house and a little shack. And fortunately, there was nobody around. So I was able to pop the door open with my shoulder, bring my bicycle in all of its weight, about 60 pounds, inside. And I was so blessed to find that there was a small stack of thin mattresses that I could take a couple of them out, put it on the concrete floor, lay out my sleeping bag, and survive through the night without harming anyone or anything or getting caught trespassing.
Well, that had to be fear, right? Right, the adrenaline right there. Like, are they going to come in? Are they going to find me? What's going to happen?
Yeah, for sure.
So we have a question here. Which country or region most transformed your view on humanity and why?
So I began in the Netherlands, and it was very much a culture shock going into that country, as essentially all I had experienced before that was the United States. I had spent a couple of weeks in England, but the cultures were relatively similar enough. Now, the Dutch are very warm, kind, bike centric people. And so this really helped me feel more assured and confident in my decision to travel in a place where I couldn't read the street signs and I couldn't speak the language and I didn't know enough to say I, me, one, two, three, ask for help, any of it. And I certainly learned along the way. But there was
Well,
something different and special about France that was like the experience of going into the Netherlands all over again. But by that point, I had gotten used to the richness of the culture, the difference within the diversity of different countries. But France has the Tour de France. And people would come up to me jokingly all the time and be like, "Oh, le Tour de France." And I would jokingly respond, "Non, non, monsieur, le Tour du Monde, the tour of the world." And they would always laugh at me at that. And people were extra generous in France because I was riding a bicycle around. It is such a bicycle centric culture that I received an even warmer reception than anywhere else I went and had some truly magical experiences in France.
well, it kind of goes into the next question. How did relying on strangers change your definition of community and trust?
I gained faith in humanity that I didn't possess up until that point because of the experience of my brother traumatizing me, my father not necessarily protecting me, my receiving a great deal of bullying at school. needing to see therapists from an early age, getting depressed about the choices of what I was doing with my life through a college politics program. It really changed when I no longer needed to be trying to fulfill some goal or meeting someone else's objective or some standard of success that I didn't necessarily buy into. It really helped to just be like a sail in the wind, going wherever life took me, that I got to slow down and be present. And I ended up adopting and finding by pure intuition and call it chance this mindset of having the perspective of a newborn child, having
Oh,
amazement and awe and wonder in everything around me as if I was seeing it for the first time, and simultaneously holding the perspective of an elderly person on their deathbed, cherishing everything as if I'm seeing it for the very last time, and loving and having associations and connections with everything, and being so in this wonderful place of cherishing and valuing and appreciating. And those two simultaneously held me in this magical place where it felt as if I could slow down time, where things lasted for longer. And that mindset brought me to this place of true presence. It's a sort of flow state that's talked about in books like Stealing Fire. It's often what I try to accomplish when I'm performing, because when I'm totally present while I'm juggling, I'm way more likely to succeed and catch everything and be in a place where I'm bringing this same presence extended to my audiences. And so learning just that alone from my traveling, now granted, there were so many other blissful and elating, sublime lessons. This was the foundation for me to grow from there and for me to step into my own personal power and lead the life that I have since lived.
Nathaniel, we had a question that just came in, and they're asking, does juggling represent life to you? Like juggling life, juggling every day.
I have certainly heard this analogy or metaphor before, and there is certainly a skill to life management that feels very akin to juggling, because it's keeping a lot of things in the air all at the same time and not letting anything drop. And there's another analogy that I really like, that there's a very fine difference between juggling and insanity. Insanity's common definition, made popular by Einstein, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The definition of juggling, doing the same thing over and over again and getting a different result.
Oh!
And so the insanity truly lies in our expectation. It is when we are so attached to something going a specific way and having an expectation of an outcome that we become disappointment when it doesn't go exactly how we want it to. That leads us away from the Buddhist principle of acceptance. There's a Chinese philosophy called Wu Wei, and it's very much this acceptance of what is, being in the present moment. And I really hope I'm getting this correct and not mistaking it for something else. I will apologize if I am. But it's about being in the place that we are and utilizing it to gain whatever lessons that we can achieve within the moment. And so, within the juggling to life analogy, if we can lower our expectations of ourselves, have a little bit more grace, and be like, hey, we do all drop balls sooner or later. There is no
Your
such
ball is
thing as
going to
perfection.
drop.
Right. I've learned through juggling there is no such thing as perfection. Every juggling world record, it doesn't have infinity by the amount of time that a juggler could do this. Everyone drops eventually. It's a matter of looking at ourselves in comparison to how we were yesterday and moving towards improvement instead of shaming ourselves for, oh, I could have done that better. We could instead say, hey, tomorrow I will have learned from today. I will do it better tomorrow. I can have grace and kindness with myself, compassion and empathy for where I am at. And instead of beating myself up for the things that I had an attachment about that I didn't meet, I can instead move from a place of self compassion. And that leads us to a place of having more compassion for others.
Yeah. Now, Daniel, has juggling helped you with perfectionism?
100% Yes, it's so much easier to be okay with that drop, that lack of perfectionism. And I can instead adopt the mindset of like, oh, what can I learn from that? I also really like the phrase in life, there are winners and there are learners because you're not a loser if you can learn something from the outcome. If you can be attached and have an expectation of what you wanted that outcome to be, and then get bitter, resentful, disgruntled, what have you, about things not going the way that you want, you are losing a lesson. And we can all gain valuable insights from not only our mistakes, but those from others.
Right? There's a lesson to be learned from everything in life.
It's true.
We have a question here that came in. If a reader wants to practice everyday pilgrimage, what
Pilgrimage.
what first step do you recommend? I've never heard of that word before, so do you want to tell me a little bit about that? What
Yeah,
that
a
means?
pilgrimage is this idea of a voyage or journey. It's a sort of spiritual quest, often towards a goal. Monks towards enlightenment. Pilgrims were often attempt to becoming closer to Christ. It was very much an early Puritan or Protestant way of going about living, and pilgrims often journeyed from one destination to another. There's the Milagro de Pitinto, or in Spain, there's, oh gosh, why am I blanking on the name right now? There's a long hiking or bicycling journey, the Camino de Santiago. And these things can take us from one place to another, but we can begin these kinds of practices without actually going anywhere because we can turn any daily practice into a meditation or moving meditation, especially processes that are simple, repetitive, things that are consistent or even necessary in our lives, such as brushing our teeth, doing the dishes, cooking our food, or tending to a garden. Juggling can also be utilized as a great moving meditation. It is anything that can help us be grounded in the present moment. Simply breathing with intention and conscientiousness is one of the absolute best ways to begin achieving this practice. And I absolutely recommend it to all listeners. It is so important towards our spiritual advancement, just as the same as prayer, gratitude, or thankfulness, mindful action, conscious presence, and being is a major key to spiritual advancement, attaining what one might call Christ consciousness, enlightenment, or ascension in this lifetime. Now, there are a variety of great other resources that we can utilize to get there, but we don't need anyone else. we can truly find these things within.
The next one that came in for you, Nathaniel, is what practical mindset or ritual helped you manage your fear, uncertainty, or exhaustion?
Well, I do meditate every day, and it makes a big difference. To manage my exhaustion, I find things that fill me back up, and I take micro moments throughout the day to practice those things, be it a mindful set of breaths or going for a short walk. And frankly, I still enjoy video games. I have one that I can take less than 5 minutes, pop in, do a quick burst of it, step away from what I am doing, remove myself from the actual environment where whatever it was that I was working on or stressed me out, or maybe I was having a hard time coming to grips with a solution around something. That physical removal makes a big difference. Also, things like healthy exercise, diet, or nutrition, as well as sleep. Haha, that's one I'm struggling with lately. All of these things make a massive difference in how we show up to everyday situations, problem solving, handling stress, and Liz, I could literally rattle off a dozen books that helps in everything from day-to-day living, relationships, and how we show up in stressful situations. Managing or regulating our emotions is so important, which ties into emotional intelligence, leadership training, massively important in today's world. There are amazing organizations out there like Next Level Trainings, Masters in Transformation Trainings, Leaders in Transformation, Ascension Leadership Academy. There are such valuable skill sets that we can gain real improvement and growth in how we show up in everyday, everything situations that makes such a massive impact on our lives that I encourage all of your listeners to do self education. I absolutely love Plato's quote, "Know thyself. The unexamined life is not worth living." When we learn our strengths and our weaknesses, shortcomings, pitfalls, often things that we are blind to and need someone else to reflect back to us, these things help significantly. They matter so much in us living a more high quality life.
I am so enjoying this conversation, Nathaniel, because we're getting a
Oh,
lot of good information out there for everyone to check out, right?
thank
We got,
you.
we got juggling, we got writing, we got kindness, we got leadership. There's so much that we're offering here during this time of tea that the listeners are enjoying understanding the different avenues in life that we can all look at, right? But learning ourselves is a big step. Learning who we are as an individual is a big step. How did you learn about yourself, Nathaniel?
Well, the primary tenet of Buddhism is life is suffering. The primary tenet of Christianity is original sin. We are all sinners. And most of my learning comes from pain and suffering. And unfortunately, that is true for the majority of us. It is the number one way in which we learn and grow. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. It is truly capable of not learning through pain and suffering when we go about seeking growth, education, personal transformation intentionally. Sometimes these things too can be painful, but it is significantly less painful instead of when we bump up against these things unconsciously in our lives. And so we can choose a lesser amount of pain or inevitably find a greater amount of pain. And so I want to avoid and save you all from as much of the pain that we will boundedly, unintentionally, almost inevitably bump into in life anyway. And so seeking out people who can hold us accountable for our baloney, for a PG term, is very important. Seeking out community of people that suffer from many of the same things that we suffer from, be it from self-help circles like the Awareness Project, Mankind Project, Sacred Sons, Authentic Man or Authentic Woman Project, and things of that nature, or be it prayer circles, Bible, Torah, Quran, what have you, study groups, looking into more alternative or agnostic philosophies, ways to connect with the divine, ourself, the Gnostic texts, Nag Hammadi, or geez, just about anything like the book Power versus Force. There's so many resources out there that help us and truly worth looking into. Outside of that, spending moments every day taking care of ourselves, maintaining love for ourselves, lifting ourselves up, filling our own cup, doing the things that we need to so that we aren't drained, depleted, irritated, irrational, angry, frustrated, taking things out on others are so important because of the ways in which our interaction not only shapes our environment, but shapes how we receive things coming back to us. The more positive we are towards others, the more likely we are to receive positivity in return.
Right? The more we give, the more we get. But you got to give to get.
Yeah, the more angry, bitter, resentful we are towards others, the more likely we are to receive those things in kind.
Absolutely. Well, Nathaniel, you said you filled a cup. So let's get into your cup. Your cup of tea. The tea that you gave me was service, inspiration, and connection. Why did you give me those three words for your cup?
I grew up leading a life of service, growing up through the Boy Scouts, becoming an Eagle Scout. I find that I have more joy in life when I am giving to others. A life in service is enriching. The more selfish I am, the less filled up I am. In terms of connection, connection is most commonly how I give service. While I could give service to a rock or a plant or something of that nature, the majority of services that I am giving are to my fellow man. Now, I am a dog and cat lover. Also, I grew up with animals. Giving to animals also brings me joy. But there is something special about human consciousness that when we are giving to other people, I swear there is a part of the brain that lights up and we get so much more out of it. And
I like that. Lights up.
comically, I told them to you, but I already forgot the last of the three in the T.
Inspiration.
Inspiration, of course. That has been my, call it modus operandi for the last 13 years running my circus company. I am doing my best to inspire and uplift others. The more that we can work, make a world a better place through our inspiration of others, the more we get out of it. Because the better the world is that we see around us. I truly believe that every interaction can be an act of inspiration for another human being. And because of how much inspiration that I received while I was traveling, it is now my goal to give that back to the world tenfold and do my best to have that profoundly impact on the planet, or profoundly positive impact on the planet. So
Well,
that's my life goal.
right?
I encourage everyone and anyone to join me.
And I like that tea because it is your tea and it shows your journey. Uh, we had a question that came in about Circus Court.
Sure.
how did you get the name, and how does it bring storytelling to the stage, and what lessons from the bicycle years appear in your performance most?
So the most popular circus when I started my company was Cirque du Soleil, which is Circus of the Sun.
Yeah.
And I wanted something that could be associated with that kind of positive association. So Cirque, like Cirque du Soleil, and quirk, because they rhyme. And I truly believe in celebrating diversity. We are all a little quirky.
I
I
like quirky.
identify as especially quirky. And so I wanted to celebrate the little quirks of our personalities and the quirks of life and celebrating that diversity through a fun word that admittedly is actually the name is hard for people to spell. I've thought about changing the name entirely, but I'm feel like I'm too far into it now. I don't want to give up the name. Since then, there's a Cirque de Quirk, Cirque du La Quirk, Cirque
Oh,
de Quirk.
so somebody likes the quirk.
Somebody likes the quirk. And so, yeah, I think we're all a little quirky. And instead of feeling ashamed of the things that make us unique and different, it's important for us to be prideful and honor those, celebrate them in others, and be thankful that we can be blessed to not all be the same. How boring of a world would that be if we were all the same?
Right? What kind of cereal are you, Nathaniel?
Cereal?
Yeah. What kind of cereal?
Oh, gosh, I found one recently that I have been so hooked on. It's called Magic Spoon.
Oh, I've never heard of it. What's in that cereal?
It's a totally like not synthetic ingredient, like really healthy, froofy, call it hippie granola kind of cereal that's keto friendly. It's high packed in protein and it's so delicious that my kids will eat it and they don't even know how good it is for them.
Because
It's
it's
got
Magic Spoon. Come
magic
on.
spoons. It's got so much good stuff in it.
Oh my goodness. You put a little bit of magic in, and right away the kids are going to grab it, right?
Yeah.
I love it. I've never heard of it. I'm going to go and look for it now. Like,
Yeah.
mhm.
But I grew up with O's, just O apostrophe HS or something like that. My grandma gave it to me. It was like Cheerios, but
Yeah.
before them. And I remember just being like, oh, it's so delightful, delightful. And now I'm like, oh, life is wonderful.
I love how you changed that O to the new O, you know.
Yeah.
And I love throwing in these little quirky questions from time to time because
Yeah,
I
I
like to
love it.
get to know my guests a little bit better. And look at, I just found a new cereal that I can try, and I can get my grandkids to try.
Yeah.
Um, my granddaughter really likes Magic, so she'll like this one, Magic Spoon. So. Uh, so I want to get into the circus quirk because we did talk about that a little bit, but I want to talk about the entertainment that you offer. You do party ideals, dancing LED robots. What else do you offer?
So we're a constantly growing company, but I essentially tell any new client we can offer anything that you can imagine. Generally speaking, anything that you could see at a traveling circus, we can bring that to you. But truly, people's imagination is the only thing that's limiting what we're capable of creating. We build all kinds of puppets for private and corporate events. We create custom tailored theatrical productions. So if you want to bring a message of joy and wonder to your next company party, we can do that in visual storytelling format that actually integrates the message into our performance as well as is verbalized within it. I'm also moving into motivational speaking. But we hire everything from jugglers, hula hoopers, magicians, clowns, stilt walkers, mimes, jesters, character actors, puppeteers, balancing artists, aerialists, acrobats, LED robots. We provide DJ and musician services, sound and lighting, event management, production, coordinating, wedding planners. I mean, basically, if anything could happen in an event format, we can bring it to you.
Why
We
not
have
have a circus at a
professionals.
wedding, right? Like, I think that's pretty cool. At a wedding?
We do a lot of fire and LED duets at
Okay.
weddings, as well as aerial dance, hula hoop, or sometimes even burlesque performances.
We need more of that, you know? We need a
Live
little bit
life
more,
spicy.
right? Spicy. Add some spice to your life. Uh, we got some fun questions that just came in. I want to get them out to you. Paintbrush, camera, or juggling clubs? Pick one today.
Ooh. I used to juggle every single day, but my camera feels even more important to me now, partially because I want to capture some of the real moments of joy with my children.
And where's the paintbrush come in? Because I we haven't talked about paintbrush.
Yeah, I make all kinds of artwork. Primary mediums are acrylic paint and colored pencil. I still don't feel a great deal of confidence or comfort with a paintbrush, but it's so fun to learn. It's really difficult for me to get the fine line work that I like and the detail of precision. I have some uber teeny tiny paintbrushes that I love, but I'm also learning to be okay with making a mess and create swaths of artwork. But you can find my art online at a variety of different, what do you call them, portals.
Okay.
Shopify is where I sell the majority of my art, but it's also in a bunch of different online retail stores where it's made into puzzles or put on mugs and t-shirts and things of that nature. But I'm Allenby Art or Allenby Arts on a variety of social media. You can even find my book, The Cycle of Kindness, online. Cirque Quirk is just www.cirquequirk.com. And I have a bunch of online articles written about me. I'm on the Internet Movie Database, featured there for all of the different appearances that I've had on TV and game shows, movies, music videos, things of that nature. I'm all over a whole bunch of different places. Miss Liz has my link trees. I've got more links than you know what to do with.
Yeah, if you go to the link tree, you can find like all of his platforms and stuff, books and that as well is on the link tree. I have the link tree up now, so if anybody wants to see the link tree, it's a cycle of kindness. Uh, Nathaniel, I want to get into sunrise climb or sunset coast.
Ooh, I do like a good challenge. I've been rebuilding my upper body strength lately to get back into climbing. So I'm going to go with sunrise climb. That's
Ooh.
usually sunrise hike right now. And while coasting to a glorious sunrise, especially or sunset, especially along the beach, would be delightful. Yeah, I'm still in a place in life where I'm challenging myself.
And this one, a simple act of kindness everyone can do this week.
Give food to a homeless person.
We have
It
so
feels
many.
like they're everywhere now, so I
They
would
are.
hope that that is easy. But if you can't actually find someone on the street, a food bank or a homeless shelter, any kind of homeless food distribution network, they're generally easy to find. You can search them out online. There are food banks everywhere. Feeding someone is literally giving them life. So
Absolutely.
choose to give someone life who may not feel like they have much to live for anymore.
So, Nathaniel, we have a question about your book. Is it kind of like, uh, let me just, is your book labeled like with um, different topics on how to do kindness?
It's a travel adventure memoir. It isn't necessarily a how to book giving ideas about acts of kindness that people can commit. Although you could certainly read the book and infer based on what the people within the book do for or to me, how you could then go out and do that to the world. But it's more like a cross between Into the Wild and Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay.
It's this really humanistic story that's all about travel and really unique experiences. I talk about some of the incredible psychedelic journeys that I get to partake in the book, as well as the volunteer opportunities, the ways in which I give back, and the incredible acts of kindness that I receive that help keep me going.
Well, what I really like about your book is the cover. The cover is gorgeous.
Oh,
Uh,
thank
the,
you.
the arrows reminded me of sharing. You know,
Hmm.
like on Instagram they have those arrows, but when you said to recycle, that also is recycling life, right? Giving life to
Yeah.
others. So like I really like, and I love the colors. The gold color really pops it out. So like I really love that a lot. So
I'm
Nathaniel,
so glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing. I actually hired a marketing consultant and they encouraged me to go away from this cover, and I said no.
I'm glad you said no because I like it. Like, and I like the globe, the world, bringing people
Yeah,
together, right? Not just one country, but globally, everybody together.
exactly. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you get it.
Well, I'm that quirk, right? The quirks get the quirks.
Yay.
So, Nathaniel, what message would you have for the listeners out there about your journey, about your story, and about what's coming in the future for you?
This came up earlier and I actually didn't get a chance to express it, so I'm really glad we get to come back full circle here. It's take a chance on doing the things that you love. In fact, Jim Carrey, in an absolutely masterful speech to the graduating class of Maharishi University, talked about this. It's available on YouTube. Highly recommend looking it up. He talks about his father and his father failing at doing what he didn't love, that he got fired from a job that he hated. It caused his family to be destitute, and that he, like me, and I basically take this from his inspiration, encourage people to take a chance on doing what you love, because people know when you're doing what you love and they want to support you in doing what you love, and that it makes such a massive difference in your success in life. When I started Cirque Quirk, I was just doing what I loved. When I was publishing the book, The Cycle of Kindness, it wasn't easy, but I was doing what I love because I want to get this kind of message out into the world. I know it makes a difference. And so, doing what we love is like raising the vibration of the planet. It is creating more positive emotions, more joy, and that's moving us as a species more towards what you might call unity consciousness or one love and a joy filled world.
Well, I really enjoyed having you on Tea Time and getting to know you a little bit more. But before we wrap up, I want you to give me one word your journey taught you.
One word my journey has taught me is resilience. The path is rarely ever easy. And if it is, it often is from a stroke of good luck. But it's how we can handle and lean into or choose discomfort, how we resolve conflicts, and how we stay resilient through the challenges of life that will help us succeed and thrive when things are difficult. It is when we are down, when things feel our toughest, or when it's the darkest before the dawn, those are the moments that we are often alone, feeling beaten, defeated, and wanting to give up. And in those moments when we don't, we actually build a part of our brain. Andrew Huberman talks about this in a much more articulate way that I can bring up. But when we build this part of our brain, it actually makes us more able to choose the difficult thing later in the future. It is when we say, no, I won't eat that sweet thing, or no, I'm going to do 10 more push ups even though I don't want to, or choose any kind of difficult thing that we don't actually want to do, that grows our capacity for resilience and doing things in the future when we don't want to do them. And I promise you, it gets easier. I used to not want to do things all the time. And now it's so much easier to lean into choosing that challenge.
Well, thank you so much, Nathaniel, and thank you for reaching out and coming on Tea Time and sharing your tea with us today. Just going to give a closing summary up, and then I'll be back at 7 p.m. with a returning guest who has been on Tea Time 4 times. So you'll be able to catch her coming with her new book as well tonight at 7 p.m. But a closing summary of today's Tea Time. What a beautiful conversation with Nathaniel Allenby. Today, he reminded us that kindness is not passive. It is an action, emotion, and a choice we can make every day. His courage to ask, to create, and to adventure with an open heart shows us that change begins with even the smallest steps. May we each carry forward Nathaniel's message of kindness in motion and find the courage to let our own acts ripple outwards into the world. Thank you guys for joining me on Tea Time, and thank you to all the listeners who tuned in on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and all of those platforms. I really appreciate you, and we'll do this all over again at 7 p.m.
Thank you so much, Liz. You're amazing. So glad to meet you and so thankful for how aligned we are.
Well, thank you so much for coming.